This is the Truth Network.
Yo, you're talking to your mother. Show a little respect, will you?
And right now we have my mom live from Illinois. Mom, you got something for us on our 10th anniversary?
I'm not sure how live I am. Well, anyhow, I just wanted to say that everybody out there, that maybe he has changed a lot of lives, but the Christian Guard show has changed Robbie Dilmore's life. And it could hardly get any better, but as his mom, I'm going to tell you, he's getting better and better. I love you all over there. Bye.
Christian Car Guy Radio Show.
I say this calls for action, and now.
Can't win without me behind you.
That's what I've been trying to tell you.
Maybe I understand some about having to fight. So you just remember who you are. You're the Bulldog of Bergen and the Pride of New Jersey. You're everybody's hope. And you're your kid's hero. And you are the champion of my heart, James J. Braddock.
If you don't want me mixing with Creed no more, we'll make out some other kind of way, you know?
There's one thing I want you to do for me.
What?
Come here.
What?
Win. Win.
What are we waiting for? Take this!
You are the champion, I assure you. You are the champion of your mother's heart. And on today's Mother's Day Eve edition of the Christian Car Guy Show, you might have heard my mother, and you could probably tell that certainly, you know, I was the champion of her heart. But, you know, I should set up those clips for you. That was from a movie. The first clip you heard was a movie called Cinderella Man, and what you heard was that man's wife coming. See, she had been against him getting in this big fight that he might get killed, and so all of a sudden she realized, wow, I got to get my husband or he really could get killed. So she comes into the locker room as they're putting the tape on his hands, and there she gives him some very unique encouragement, and she says what I think is just an epic line. You are the champion of my heart. And I really feel like that's what mothers, I've been trying to get that sense of what is it that I felt like I got from my mother. And I could always tell that I was the champion of her heart. And then, of course, you know, we heard Adrian from Rocky, which actually I think that he knew of the story of what happened with James Braddock. And so he used it in that movie before they ended up doing the Cinderella Man. But I believe God sent more than one comforter into your life. I really do. And I hope, like me, you had a mom that was like mine. But even if it wasn't that your mom did it, God sent someone else, I promise, that you are the champion of their heart. And as you're listening to those sound bites and you're thinking about that, I really think moms were meant to give us a picture of the real comforter, the Holy Spirit. And women have an ability to encourage us. And I mean encourage, like stick courage in there. You know, like that's what my mom could do for me. In fact, she listened to every show when she was alive. And she would often call in. For those who have been listening for years and years know how much she would call in, because she was listening, and she would call me after every show and she would encourage me. But she would also tell me how many times I said, you know, and if I used some other euphemism she didn't care for, she had all that stuff. But it was all about encouragement. So, you know, as I was putting this together, I was thinking, wow, a few years ago, I came to realize that God was not the backup plan as my father. And I don't know if you ever thought that, but I used to think that, wow, if a little girl or a little boy's dad died, that God would step in and father them, sort of like the backup plan. Well, I was thinking way, way, way too small as God began to show me this picture that he is not only my father, but he's the main event. And he's like like an orchestra conductor who's been orchestrating fathers into my life since day one, people to come in and begin to build those things that a father brings in. Well, this morning as I was thinking about that, I came to realize that he does the same thing with mothers. He's been bringing mothers into your life. Yes, you have your mother that you were born to, but I can assure you, if you're like me and you really think about what I'm saying, he has been directing mothers like an amazing symphony since day one. And you might remember in Mark chapter 10, it says, truly I say to you, if no one, and this is a wonderful promise from Jesus. Everybody ought to just, man, I just wallow in this promise. I say to you, there is no one who has left house or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or lands for my sake and the sake of the gospel, who will not receive 100-fold now. In this time, houses and brothers and sisters and mothers had children and lands, all with persecutions, and in the age to come, eternal life. But 100 mothers? Well, think about that. I'll bet you if you really began to sit down and count, they're in there like Prego spaghetti sauce, man. You got 100 of them. And I know that in my case, I have a retirement home that I've been going to for a lot of years, and between this show and Sunday school and Jim, work. I mean, how many mothers do we have at work that step in and...
Oh, yeah. It's awesome to see how God uses people, but particularly mothers, to spread his love and in a way that mothers can only uniquely show that compassion and that support.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that put on the birthday parties. They're the ones that really, they sense when you need something more. A guy's just not going to do it. So, I wonder if underneath that you realize, like I do right now, I hope you do, that simply put, you are the champion of God's heart. And so, he knows your need for mothering. And he's been sending these mothers into your life as agents of his from day one. So I wanted to give everybody an opportunity today to honor that, to say, yeah, I know what you're talking about, Robbie. Yeah, my mother was great and she was awesome and all that stuff. I hope so. But God sent this grandmother or this aunt, or God sent this 104-year-old person like Miss Beck into my life, and this is what happened. We want to know your story. 866, don't let me down. I'm excited to hear these. I've been waiting all day since I thought about this, waiting for you to call in and tell your story. So 866-348-7884 is a number to call in and share your mother story. And it doesn't have to be your natural mother, but the one who just encouraged you, that just you felt her saying, yeah, you're the champion of my heart. 866-348-7884. Of course, being that we're the Jesus Labor Love for single moms and widows and families in crisis, I have a whole lot of that this morning that I want to share. But I'm really, really hoping for these stories, Jim, aren't you?
Absolutely. There's got to be tons of great mom stories out there. Moms at work, moms at home, moms, I think about, I've had my seasons, where I've been sick and nurtured back by, the most amazing nurses who were more than a medical, care person. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I got to hear that story. There was a nurse?
Well, I mean, I just think of the way that a nurse cares for you. It's beyond, for me, my experiences, in the hospital with surgeries and so forth, the level of care and love and concern seemed and felt very motherly. Somebody's bringing you back to health, and you're laying there completely helpless, and you certainly check your modesty at the door when you go into the hospital, and care for you very similarly to the way you were cared for when you were a baby, like only a mother can.
Oh man, I've got a story. the minute you said that, it reminded me of a story of a nurse I'll never, ever forget. But right now we have Valerie, who is in Charlotte. She's got a mother story. I hope she's still giving her information to the producer. But, there's some more calls coming in. We love it. So we're excited about all those. But I had a brain, and trying to think of what it was, abscess.
Oh, wow.
Based on a surgery that I'd had. I had a brain biopsy when they thought I had another kind of cancer in the brain after I had cancer. It was a long story how I ended up with this brain abscess, but it was a staph infection. It was my brain, and it was causing my brain to swell. And oh my gosh, I got a nurse story for that. We got Valerie, we got Lori, we got all sorts of people coming up. So stay tuned. We're honoring mothers and that unique way that they have of encouraging in the toughest of times. So 866, we need your story. 866-348-7884. Call in and share.
Yo, you're talking to your mother. Show a little respect, will you? You only got one mother. Take care of her. Appreciate her. Show a little respect. Take care of her.
Today on the Christian Car Guy Show, honoring mothers of all sorts of different mothers that God has brought into your life, and we're excited to hear these stories. Apparently God has lined them up for us, because we got Valerie first is in Charlotte. Valerie, you're on the Christian Car Guy Show. Are you with me? Oh, sounds like we lost that line, but Valerie, we hope you call back. We got Lori, I think her name is, in Raleigh. Lori, are you with us?
Hey, Guy, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. I'm very excited to hear your story.
Oh, I've been so blessed with incredibly remarkable ladies in my life. I mean, my mom was such a sweet, a wise, and funny woman. But also, from the lady that lived next door to me, who first shared the truth of, the Bible with me when I was a little girl,
really?
To staying with my grandmother, Miss Bill, in the summertime. And then as I've gotten older, women that weren't old enough to be my mom, really, but they displayed that much love to me and support and encouragement. Yeah.
Isn't that neat?
Incredible. Yeah. I recently lost my brother, and it was tough. And I had a friend of mine and her husband come all the way out and pick me up and say, "You're staying with us for a while." So anyway, but just incredible people that God has put into my life. The ladies that He's right on time. God's always been on time, never late. But anyway, I just thank you, and God bless you and what you do, and listen to you all the time, every single day. So
well, Lori, did I say your name right? That's important to me.
Oh, that's fine.
Is that how it's pronounced, Loria?
Laura.
Oh, just Laura. Okay. It was the way it was written up there, and I was. Well, Laura, isn't it amazing? I'm thinking about the friend and his wife that came when you lost your brother, which is just tragic. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, the thoughtfulness of it, and does the word champion of their heart sound like they just came to your rescue?
Well, that was the feeling that night. Yeah, it was tough, but they made it. It's like, and throughout my life, I didn't realize what, maybe off the subject here, but still the same. I had heard, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Or I said, okay, or what the devil meant for bad, the Lord will use for good. And I guess it's another way of saying Romans 8:28. When I got older, I realized, oh wow, that's Romans 8:28. So it didn't destroy me, but I mean, it was just it's just brought me close more.
Yeah, and it's an interesting
Crazy
thing because
thing.
I bet that, that hole that's there from your brother just isn't getting filled, and I was listening to my mom at the beginning of the show. I teared up immediately because, I understand those things, but the loss is still the loss. And
Yeah.
it's interesting how they were there to comfort you. Thank you so much for your courage to call in today. I loved your story.
Oh, thank you. I just hope it's helped somebody else to where he does give us strength. And even when I thought he didn't, or, I had to do it on my own sometimes, I'm sure we all do. But he's just, I stay amazed these days. And I just thank him so much. And
Me too.
The people in my life.
All right.
All right. God bless you,
God
buddy.
bless you. Thank
Take
you.
care, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Robbie,
Bye-bye.
it's interesting to me. God's greatness is infinite, and God sends all these different people into your life. And one of the things that I've noticed is the people that stand out to me and have had a long time impact in my life, they're all so different. And I think it's interesting that as humans, none of us are perfect, but we all have these amazing sort of God-given traits and skills. And I think maybe that's why we have so many mothers that impact us, because while they're all beautiful and wonderful, none of us are perfect, but we all, in aggregate, sort of reflect God's love. And so when she was talking about the different women, I wanted to ask her, how were they different and what was it about them? Because, I can think about the individuals and if I, stood them up against a wall, they're all so different, but also wonderful.
Well, we can get another caller. We can get Laura to call back. 866-348-7884. I mean, the diversity of women in your life that God has brought in as encouragers. I mean, I think about it in my own situation. You brought up the nurse, and I'm going to finish that. Well, I should finish that story.
Yeah.
So there I was. My brain was swelling in my head, and they had to bring me into emergency surgery to kind of crack open the egg to get the pressure off. And they couldn't get an operating room because something had stalled in all the operating rooms, so they just had me sitting there, and all these drugs were not doing nothing because my head was just absolutely pounding. And God sent in a lady, and I knew her. She was in my Sunday school class.
Wow.
And she comes in and she said, "Robbie, it's me. I've got you." And she just held my hand. She didn't say a word, because believe me, any sound was going to. She held my hand for whatever that was, 20 minutes before they got me. I'll never, ever, ever forget it, because she was God to me for that time.
Exactly what you needed.
I knew he sent her. I knew that, for those moments, I was the champion of her heart. But she was a completely different lady than, say, Miss Beck, my 104, where she was in her 80s when I first met her, but, she was at the retirement home where I, do devotions, and she used to, she was always, "Robbie, you have an anointing. Robbie, God is calling you to do this. You are so, and she was so encouraging. But then if I used a word like golly, she'd be, "Now, Robbie, you're better than using a word like that, because that's a euphemism for God." And she would, she was not she was not shy.
How do they know what you need? They're exactly right knowing what you need.
Come on now, you got a story. 866-348-7884. Valerie, call back, and everybody else, we need to hear them. 866-348-7884.
If you don't want me mixing with Creed no more, we'll make out some other kind of way,
There's one thing I want you to do for me.
What?
Come here.
What?
Win. Win.
What are we waiting for? Take this!
the champion of your mother's heart and all those other mothers that God has been sending into your life since day one. As we begin to, we talked about at the beginning of the show, as we see God has been orchestrating women into our lives, our entire lives, to step in very unique and diverse ways, Jim, as we've been talking about. But during the break, you were talking about your sister.
Oh, yeah. My sister's awesome. She's 4 years older, and we've always had, we've had a pretty typical, brother-sister relationship, which I characterize as very, very positive. But it was brother-sister until my mother passed away. And it's still got a wonderful element of that brother-sister, element to it. But when my mom passed away, my sister stepped up in a way and took on a very motherly role for me, and she has supported me, and I think I'm champion in her heart, and she certainly is in mine. But the way she's looked after me, the way only a mom can. So even my sister now has stepped into this motherly role, and she's been a great mom to two boys that are wildly successful and inspired. She's inspired them to do great things. She calls me every Friday and wishes me a great Friday, TGIF kind of thing, and she's just wonderful.
That's really cool. She calls and says, "Happy Friday."
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Well, you're sitting on that story. You're thinking, I should call. You're exactly right. God's urging you to call because you could encourage thousands with your call. 866-348-7884. Don't hesitate, please. We would love to hear your story. 866-348-7884. For me, for many of you who listen to the Christian Car Guy often, you'll hear Ann Alt, who is one of the actresses in Christian Car Guy Theater. She plays almost all the bad guys that she plays Nagadonna. But she also plays some other roles because she's a very gifted actress. Used to be in Adventures in Odyssey. But interestingly, after my mother died about 2 years ago, Anne became this super encourager. And I don't know if it was, and she is not old enough to be my mom, but she's a few years older than me. But there is never my mother would always give me feedback. But now, every single Saturday, I get an email from Ann after the shows, and what that does for my heart, that somebody heard and is listening, and what my mother used to do, God sent Ann. And so, how amazing is it that God, continues to do stuff like that? And I couldn't help but think, as you were talking about how, God replaced your mother, then, certainly he did in my own life. And so I've got to get into a little bit of our Jesus Labor Love. Now, before we do that, we have Keith, who's in High Point, and we want to hear Keith's story. So you can call in with yours, 866-348-7884. Keith, you're on a Christian Car Guy show. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I was excited to hear your stories.
Well, I've got two. There's numerous, of course, but there's two that stick out in my mind the most. When I was real ill, it was in early 60s, my brother and I were doing something, and my brother did something he shouldn't have done. And I went and told my mom about it. So my mom came, and this is back in the old days. She spanked my brother, and I was sitting there kind of just grinning and laughing. And then she turned around and spanked me. I said, "Mom, I didn't do nothing." She said, "You told on your brother." She said, "You never tell on your brother. He'll be the only friend you'll have for the rest of your life."
Wow.
And that's proved to be true. I never have forgotten that. And during our difficult times in our lives, we've stuck with each other through that. And
mother's wisdom.
Thing, it really was. Another thing was she dropped me off at a nursery school one time. And this was back in those days where, you could pull up and the mother could pull up and go talk to the lady and you go in there and just stay for a little while until they got shopping done and everything. I had a brand new coloring book my mother gave me. And so I took it in there and I was coloring in it. Well, the teacher saw that and she grabbed my coloring book, and it was the first taste of socialism I ever had. I don't like it. But she started ripping all the pages out of my coloring book and passing them out to the children. She said, they don't have any, so they're going to have yours. Well, when my mom came to pick me up, I got in the car and I burst into tears and told her what happened. And I don't know what she said or did. I could see it from the car into the house. But that lady had grabbed her pocketbook and came out with some cash and gave it to my mom. But that was, you know, they can talk about socialism, communism now. I'm not going there, but that was my first taste of it, and I never have liked it since. But
well,
you know,
Mama Bear.
She taught me though, and that's something my brother even remembered about him getting a spanking and me getting a spanking. He, you know, that was 1960, 61, something like that, and still remember to this day.
Well, Keith,
But he did do something one time, and my mother said, "Now, who did this?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "Did Mark do this?" I said, "Mom," I said, "I don't know."
Learn that lesson, right?
She said, "Well, if he did it now, you need to tell me." I said, "No, Mama." I'm not saying a word.
That's awesome.
You know, Keith, you have an amazing voice. You ought to be on the radio. You should be the host of this show. I mean, you really, really do. You have an amazing way of telling stories.
I appreciate you saying that, because you don't know the kind of road I'm on right now. I've had some things happen. I've had to make a change in life, and hearing something like that means a lot to me. I appreciate that. That's from God's mouth through you to me. I appreciate that. I really do.
It really, really, you really, really are gifted in telling what you're telling, and I know you encouraged a lot. I'm not going to forget this one, Keith. God bless you. Thank you so much for calling in and sharing today.
Thank you, and y'all have a blessed weekend.
You too.
Do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. I mean,
great.
I'm trying to think of the guy's name in Mother's Morning Out. I mean, in Mom's Night Out, that is the plays the motorcycle. He has this voice like, oh my gosh, that is the voice. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just wonderful. What a gift.
Now I love that Keith's mom's lessons get to be appreciated by everybody that hears it, and certainly me. And I'll tell that story again. That's a great story.
Right. So you got lessons that you could share at 866-348-7884. But I got to share this prayer request I got. Now, this actually didn't come through the Jesus Labor Love. I got this email. And I know it's a bit long, but just bear with me here, because, you know, it's one of those that I feel the need to share. So it says, hello, I don't know anything about you really, but from what I heard, I pray God blesses you even more so. I was told if I could find you that you would pray for people like me. I sure could use some prayers. I'm hanging on to God as best I can. I lost my dad and my husband, and from those moments on, terrible things have been happening. I lost everything, one of which my car broke down last summer. So with no money, I rode my bike for several months through the heat and through the snow and the ice of winter. I'm almost 60 with health problems and no health insurance. After 7 months of pushing and riding the bicycle, my church gave me $800 that I needed to fix my car, but then it turned out to cost twice as much. And so things got mixed up, and eventually the car got fixed, but then it broke down again. This letter is fairly long, but essentially it gets down to, here's this woman, and I mean, she needs a car. I mean, really needs a car. And I want to read just a little bit of the end of the letter. It says, after my family was taken from me, I didn't want to live. I love life, but I'm fighting this again. But I have a strong relationship with God, though. Through all this, but a person's body can only take so much, let alone their heart and spirit. I'm walking to the other side of the city to get a job, to make a couple of dollars. I hope this will work out. So you got to get the picture. What an honor that God would allow me to pray. I called her. I prayed with her. She's a very encouraging lady. And I think we can find a car. But if you got a car, we're going to talk about that when we come back. More in the Jesus Labor Love. We got Ann calling in and so many other stories that I know you're sitting on. 866-348-7884.
Can't win without me behind you.
That's what I've been trying to tell you.
Maybe I understand some about having to fight. So you just remember who you are. You're the Bulldog of Bergen and the Pride of New Jersey. You're everybody's hope. And you're your kid's hero. And you are the champion of my heart, James J. Reddick.
You are the champion of your mother's heart, or many mothers that God may have sent you. That's what we're talking about today on the Christian Car Guy Show. You still got time to share your story. We don't want to leave you without it. Here's your chance, 866-348-7884. I told you about the story of the lady that needs a car, and believe me, that was a tough one in the Triad area in North Carolina. So if you got a car and you're in this area, we'd love to hear that. Here's another story I got this week of a lady in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Unexpected death of my husband, killed on Wade Hampton while I was at work in April 2018. Due to extreme stress and PTSD, I had a severe panic attack, causing me to lose consciousness. I fall face first on the hard asphalt, breaking out all my front teeth. Right? And as you go into this, she had a similar situation where she didn't have her car, lost her car, and there she is, a widow, again, without transportation. And so if you're in the Spartanville, Greenville area, I need a car down there. This lady, we're praying for her. And again, you don't have a car. I understand. I don't have a car, but we can all pray for it. And that's what these ladies are really asking for. Another difficult situation here, just where people are helping out. The Jesus Labor Love. Now, I gotta talk to you a minute, and then I'm going to get back to, we got a couple of calls where we want to get those. But I got to talk to you a minute about Transworld Radio, because northern Nigeria is a battleground for Christians. Jihadists are pushing into villages, killing believers, committing horrible violence, and really cool. The Truth Network is partnering with Transworld Radio to build a 200,000 watt radio transmitter that's going to penetrate that region. It's called the Oasis transmitter. It's going to cover parts of Nigeria, and I can't pronounce these words, Cameroon perhaps, Niger, Chad, Benin, and villagers all over, right? So we're asking that you would join the Truth Network. If you go to truthnetwork.com and you see the Oasis, right, that radio transmitter project there at truthnetwork.com, consider giving 50, 100, 200 as the Lord leads, because this is a huge thing. They're talking about people are really undergoing some stuff. It's going on in Nigeria right now. Or you can call 888-988-5656. They got operators on duty right now if you want to give. 888-988-5656. So I got Ann Alt. I knew she'd call. Ann, you're here with us, and you got a poem.
How could I resist? Yeah, absolutely. And I knew when your mommy died, and I miss mine so much, and the Lord just put that on me to just, be a faithful mommy to you. I mean, one of your many mommies. But yeah, I have a poem I wrote for my mother, and boy, if I can get through it, mother and wife, and I actually wrote it for another lady, but it was based on my mother. For her mother's funeral, and I said, well, I need to know more about your mom, because I was officiating, and she said, well, she was just a mother and wife. So I wrote this poem, and I will like to announce that she did cry when I read the poem, so that was a good thing. She needed to grieve, because mothers are so precious. But anyway, mother and wife are just two simple words, and yet inexpressibly dear. They draw you a picture of one woman's life, and the words make the picture quite clear. You imagine the scenes that unfold through the years, days filled with laughter, with headaches and tears. A woman not perfect, and yet one who tries to reach out to her family and maintain the ties. You helped her bake cakes when you were a kid and constantly begged for a lick. She stayed up all night, mopping your brow and giving you broth when you were sick. She listened with patience as you poured out your heart and spent hours bending her ear. Then you doubted the wisdom and answers she gave when she told you the things you did not want to hear. There are many professions, noble and true, many a call in this life, but few can compare with the guts that it takes to be just a mother and wife.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You made it, but I didn't. That's beautiful, Ann. Absolutely
praise God,
beautiful.
Praise God. Well, I love you guys, and these shows are so anointed, and I pray for them every week, and just love it. Love
Thank you, Ann.
God
I
bless
love you.
Guys.
God bless. Bye-bye. We got
Bye.
Craig is in Des Moines, Iowa. Craig, you're on the
hey.
Christian Car Guy show. What you got for us?
I'm an old backyard mechanic from the 70s. And anyway, my mother, when I was young, there were 6 of us, and she'd take my dad to work. Back in those days, you only had one car in the family, and she'd take my dad to work, and once in a while, in that working section of town, in Davenport, she'd find a snapping turtle or something on the road, and she'd just bring it home for us boys to play with. Another day, she brought home a blue racer snake. How the heck she caught that, I have no idea, but this thing was about 56 inches long. I think in 4th grade. I had a great time taking that thing to school. So she was quite an old gal. We lived right on the edge of town.
Wow.
So we were out catching snakes and turtles all the time, and she'd kind of help us along with our collecting. So she also wrote a little poem, I think. I'll give you this only a second. It was in the Quad City newspaper at the time. It was these are the thoughts of a 6-fold mother. Wouldn't take a million for one or give a dime for another. I always thought that was pretty good.
That's really good, Craig. That's really good.
Well,
and I am loving a mom that would catch a snapping turtle and bring it home for her kids to play with.
Yeah, she was outside. There was a bar that she had to go by when she dropped my dad off. It's just local neighborhood tap. And there was a crowd, 3 or 4 people out there, and in the morning, they were probably already had a buzz on. This would have been about 7:30 in the morning. And these people are standing around, and she wondered what it was, and they were pushing this thing around as this snapping turtle. She just grabbed it by the tail and put it in the back of the station wagon, and I guess took the amusement away from the bar people there. You can imagine 7:30 in the morning, and these guys are standing around there with nothing better to do. That was funny. So. Anyway,
that is classic, Craig.
Happy
classic
Mother's Day to
stuff. Happy Mother's Day to you. That is a story right
That's
there.
Great.
Wow, it's funny. I saw a snapping turtle just on Sunday. We were coming back from our friends, and here's a big old snapping turtle in the road, and I pulled over, and my wife and I took pictures of it, and I was like, that's just strange that thing would be out in the rain. But have you ever played with a snapping turtle?
No way.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't tell this story. I thought that I'd caught a stegosaurus because a snapping turtle's tail looks like it's got spikes on it like that. So we're walking up the DuPage River in Illinois, and when we were little kids, and this tail is coming out of the mud, and it's got those spikes on it. And I'd been listening to my mom tell this story about the lazy stegosaurus. I forget what the title of the book was, and so I was like, guys, it's a dinosaur. So we pull this dinosaur out of the mud, and it turns out to be a snapping turtle. So we proudly take it home to my dad, who absolutely freaks out, and he's like, you got to get rid of the snapping turtle. Well, we got creative. Now, there was a bridge over the DuPage River, and we were going to throw it over the bridge, but as we were looking, this canoe was coming with these 2 people. Oh, should I tell the rest of the story, Jim?
Absolutely. You can't leave us with that.
So, we were on the back side of the bridge. So when the canoe came, it was red, I remember. We let the turtle go bombs away. The turtle hit the canoe with this big kathwam, you know, and the people saw the turtle. They didn't know where it came from. I guess they think it jumped off the bridge. And they go off in the water. The turtle is going down the, you know, SS Shell-Shocked down the river.
In the canoe.
So I thought of, you know, wow. So slow down. Jesus walked everywhere he went, got it all done in 33 years. Go to ChristianCarGuy.com to find out more about the Jesus Labor Love.